受けていたら勃剣といえど真っ二つにされていた。早い。あれだけ力を込めて切り込んだのにすぐに体勢を立て直してきた。
なんだこのガキ。
汚い手でアルス様に触れるな。
だてめえ
さっきのシャーロットが捕まっちゃった。
Jack immediately sent Lise to rescue her, though Lise acted alone. As the first genius Jack ever discovered, he had S-rank skills in both strategy and combat. The slave trader's henchmen were no match for him at all. Soon after, Lise took them all down with ease. Seeing things take a bad turn, the slave trader hurriedly ordered his men to stop, to see if there was some kind of misunderstanding. But he quickly realized that the mastermind was just a young boy, and that the goal was to take Charlotte away. The slave trader was instantly enraged, and immediately ordered his men to continue the attack. Seeing the slave trader had even more thugs, Charlotte wanted Jack to run away quickly, but she never expected Jack to remain completely calm, and even coolly said to leave everything to Lise. This scene was clearly seen by the gangsters. They were stunned that Jack was so dismissive of them. Just as one of them was about to make a move, the next second, his body was suddenly lifted into the air. He had been hoisted up one-handed by Lise.
貴様らは何をしたか分かっているのか。アレス様を怒らせた罪、万死に値する。
Seeing this scene, the slave trader hurriedly ordered his magic users to take action, but they never expected that Lise could slice through flames with just a dagger. As all his men fell one by one, the slave trader was forced to play his trump card. It turned out there was a bodyguard upstairs whom he had hired at a high price. Seeing the man's bulky physique, Charlotte felt uneasy, but Jack wasn't worried at all. His appraisal eye had told him that the brute was no match for Lise, but the brute thought Lise looked weak and didn't take him seriously at all.
遅すぎる。
リーチさんとあの人では才能の格が違います。
That move completely took away the brute's ability to fight. Then, after a round of peaceful negotiation, the slave trader dared not act rashly and allowed Jack to take Charlotte away. Charlotte was deeply shaken by what she witnessed, Lisa's overwhelming strength, and the words Jack had told her earlier made her wonder, was her magical talent truly S-rank? When Jack invited her to join once again, this time, she chose to say yes. But before that, she wanted to test her magical talent on the spot. Soon, they arrived at a remote and desolate area. It turned out to be Charlotte's secret base. Not only was the scenery beautiful, but also completely undisturbed by others. After explaining the test method to Charlotte, they began the test. What happened next shocked everyone.
フォールマイグニイラプト。
This kind of magical power was something they had never seen in their lives. They were all curious who the caster was. Even the crystal used for talent assessment cracked. Jack and Lise were both stunned by this. They had never imagined that S-rank talent could be this overwhelming. After all, it was Charlotte's very first time using magic. Even Lise had to humbly admit defeat. At that moment, Charlotte asked Jack about the benefits of becoming a retainer. After learning it included food and housing, and even a salary, Charlotte said that she would rather give her salary to other orphans, and only needed food and shelter for herself. Of course, Jack had no reason to reject such a request, and Charlotte felt no more hesitation. Thus, Jack gained his second capable aid. Soon, Jack introduced her to his father. But unexpectedly, his father refused without hesitation, because sending women to the battlefield was too dangerous. So with no other choice, Jack had to let Charlotte show her skills on the spot.
フォールマイグニイラプト。
よろしく頼む。
Not long ago, the genius he had discovered had already begun to shine. Charlotte, who had an astounding talent for magic, took only 3 years to earn a reputation on the battlefield as the most powerful magic soldier. This further strengthened Jack's resolve to use his appraisal eye to gather talented individuals. Jack learned of a hunter family with 2 sons who were both highly skilled. He decided to check them out in person. Just as he was about to reach his destination, an arrow hit a moving wild boar. Quick glance confirmed it was the brothers he wanted to meet. Jack immediately activated his appraisal eye and discovered both had A-rank talent in infantry and archery. Jack was quite satisfied. Soon, the group arrived at the hunter's house. The family warmly welcomed Jack. Upon learning that Jack was the son of a lord and intended to take his sons as retainers, the hunter was overjoyed. As they were happily chatting, someone was discovered stealing bread from the table. They initially thought it was a thief, but Jack later learned that it was actually the hunter's 3rd son. As the hunter scolded Rossel, Jack again used his appraisal eye and was stunned by the values in front of him. Not only did Rossel have multiple A-rank talents, but his strategic talent was actually S-rank. Most astonishing was his intelligence cap of 109. Without any hesitation, Jack decided to make him a retainer, but Rossel didn't want to go to the battlefield. Hearing something terrible might happen, he cried and ran off immediately. The hunter hurriedly apologized to Jack. It turned out Rossel was unlike his 2 older brothers. He was frail and timid, and not good at chopping wood or archery. But how could a strategist be expected to go hunting? Jack decisively went upstairs to find Rossel. He didn't expect that Rossel hadn't been crying, but was calmly reading a book. A true genius in strategy indeed. This gave Jack an idea. He invited Rossel to his private library. Any book he wanted was available. Rossel couldn't resist the temptation, and soon followed Jack to his home. Even though his potential intelligence was extremely high, he was still just 5 years old. So Jack arranged for Lisa to tutor him. Half a day passed, and when Jack returned, Rossel Russell had fallen asleep from exhaustion. From Lisa, Jack learned that Russell had been reading the whole time. Not only did he remember everything he was taught, but he could also connect it to deeper meanings. At this moment, Jack appraised him again, and saw that Russell's intelligence had jumped from 45 to 56, but the most urgent task was to restore his confidence. The next day, Jack asked Russell to hunt using traps instead. He encouraged Russell that aside from strength, one could also succeed by using their brain. Although Russell still lacked confidence, he decided to give it a try. Not long after, the summoned hunter was stunned by what he saw. He never imagined there would be so many wild boars inside the pen, and it was all accomplished using Russell's trap. Upon questioning, they learned Russell had used knowledge from a book about boars' tendency to charge at yellow objects, so he built a yellow painted enclosure and successfully lured the boars inside. Once they entered, they couldn't escape. He even made small holes for the piglets to escape, to avoid driving wild boars in the forest to extinction. He had even considered ecological balance. The hunter was the most astonished of all. It was then he realized the foolish Russell had such remarkable ability. If not for Jack, he might never have known. After some thought, he decided to entrust Russell to Jack. He didn't want such a talent to go unnoticed. Russell was finally moved as well. He realized that reading could make a real difference. He regained his confidence. More importantly, he could bring a better life to his family. Jack had once again recruited a great officer, as well as Russell's two older brothers.
よろしくね。
The boy never expected that although his fiancée appeared well-behaved on the outside, her ambition level was actually as high as 80. Being able to see other people's talents was Jack's special ability. At the age of 9, his father told him he actually had a fiancée, but the moment they met, his original expectations vanished into thin air. Thinking about the girl's intentions, it was highly likely she wanted to seize his family's territory. Jack immediately became alert. When Lisha saw Jack staring at her like that, Lisha thought there was something on her face.
とリシア様のお顔が綺麗で見とれていらっしゃるのですよ。
But cuteness alone wasn't enough to reassure Jack, so he decided to wait and see. Along the way, they encountered many residents, who were all curious about the girl beside Jack. After introducing her as his fiancée, Lisha responded with a polite smile. This immediately won the favor of two women nearby. They looked like a perfect match, talented man and beautiful woman, but Jack could only smile bitterly at this. In truth, she was a threat to the territory. Just then, Liz happened to pass by, but the steward called her an inferior race. Yet in the next second, Lisha scolded him sharply. Liz was a warrior of Jack's household. She had earned countless honors on the battlefield. Lisha wouldn't allow the steward's rudeness and made him apologize. Seeing this scene, Jack thought she was hiding her true self far too well, but in the actions and behavior that followed, he couldn't find any fault. As a genius with a political talent level of 100, Lisha excelled at social interaction. If Jack didn't have the ability to assess others, he surely would have fallen for her. Suddenly, a quarrel broke out. It turned out two people were arguing over a magic stone issue. The shop had originally ordered a flame magic stone, but the supplier delivered a shadow magic stone instead. Since it was only a verbal agreement, the argument broke out. As the next lord of the territory, Jack knew he needed to find a way to calm the situation.
できなければこいつ無能ですわ。もうランベルクは私のもの。絶対に失敗できないぞ。
Just as Jack was unsure what to do, Lisha said she had an idea. If she resolved it smoothly, she hoped Jack would grant her one request. Lisha walked up to the two arguing people and offered her solution. Her family would purchase the Shadow Magic Stone, because in her territory, the Shadow Magic Stone was extremely rare, so she would buy it at a higher price. Meanwhile, Flame Magic Stones were abundant in the territory's volcanic areas. She would sell them at a lower price. At this point, she added that it was actually Jack who gave her the idea. Her words completely resolved the conflict. They sincerely thanked Jack, truly worthy of being the next lord. After everyone had left, Jack couldn't help but marvel at Lisha's impressive political skills, but she hadn't forgotten that Jack owed her a favor.
これからする質問に正直に答えていただきたいのです。はい。アルス様はどのような人がお好きなのでしょうか。え、何その質問。
This made Lisha seem even more unreadable to Jack, but Jack thought that with sheer intelligence alone, he was no match for her anyway, so he decided to be honest. He said he liked people he could share genuine conversations with. The moment he said that, the air grew suddenly quiet. Lisha's reaction left him a bit disappointed. She merely said she'd take it into consideration, then turned and left. Night soon fell. Jack still couldn't figure out Lisha's true thoughts, but tomorrow was the day Lisha would return home. Just as Jack felt a sense of regret, he was surprised to find a surprise hidden under the blanket. Lisha revealed she had sneaked out secretly. The reason she came here was because Jack had said earlier today that he liked girls he could have honest conversations with. It turned out she had a secret ability. She could read people's expressions, to sense their emotions. So when she first met Jack, she instantly sensed that Jack was suspicious of her. But whether she chatted or smiled, Jack's suspicion only grew stronger. She couldn't understand why. Jack confessed that he had the ability to see other people's talents. Because Lisha's ambition was incredibly high, he grew suspicious of her motives. Lisha realized Jack had misunderstood her. She did have ambition.
どんな野心をお持ちなのですか。言わせるのですか。女が持つ野心なんて。 素晴らしい男性に見初められること以外ありませんわ。何か かおっしゃってください。
What she said made sense. Marrying a powerful man was the best way for a lord's daughter to survive, but Jack was puzzled, as he was just a noble from a weak territory. She shouldn't have found him worthy. However, Leisha saw right through Jack's thoughts. If her fiancé were an unremarkable man, she would indeed find ways to cancel the engagement. But what she saw was that Jack was deeply loved by his people. This completely changed her previous outlook. Back in her own territory, people put on masks just to gain power and status. Everyone wore a mask. She longed to escape that fake and hollow life. It was Jack who gave her the confidence that even without schemes and manipulation, one could be loved for who they truly are. And that is the irreplaceable strength of a true lord.
私もランベルクの皆様と同じくあなたを好きになりました。ありがとうございます。
Early the next morning, Leisha departed for home. After all, marriage was something for when they were older. Though reluctant, Jack had no choice but to let her go. From then on, they started exchanging letters. Though they couldn't see each other for the time being, Jack felt content. After their heartfelt conversation that day, he had already placed her in his heart. But just as Jack thought, that life would now go on peacefully. Little did he know that soon after, he would face a serious trial.